It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me. Craig, shut up.
Hey, I need you guys to do these things.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So welcome to Reality Check with Craig Price. This week, private investigator Ed Opperman is here to talk about digital forensics. Now, I've never really needed the services of a private investigator, and when I think of a PI, the images that come to my mind are Peter Falk as Columbo or Tom Selleck as Magnum PI. Those are the things that come to mind whenever I hear the term private investigator. But I do know there are times when an investigator is needed. I mean, there are some sneaky weasels in the world, and now with Facebook, cell phones, sexting, all the technology at our disposal, being a private dick isn't all about tailing people with a telephoto lens and snapping pictures, and then they have the big reveal at the end where they throw the manila folder on the desk and the glossy black and white photos come flying out. There's a lot of different things to consider now, and I've brought Ed on the show to sort them out. Be it infidelity, cyberstalkers, or email hackers, Ed can help. And since you are on a computer or a smartphone right now and you have access to the internet, why not head over to iTunes and write a review for the show? See that segue? Did you hear that? That's professional right there. Yeah, we'll move on. Clicking on 5 stars and taking the time to write a review helps out the podcast, and I would really appreciate it. Also, don't forget you can sign up for the weekly email at realitycheckpodcast.com. It's a great reminder for you, as well as having some great offers, and it lets you know who's coming on the show in the coming weeks. But let's get to this week and this week's show with Ed Opperman. With technology the way it is now, and the way that privacy is pretty much being given out, we've thrown away our own privacy. People always complain about privacy, but that they have, loud conversations on their cell phone in the airport about very private things. Is it easier, or is it getting harder to find people with technology?
That's a good question. It's a little of both. You got to remember, I started back in the 80s. And back then, you could legally get a copy of a private investigator could legally get a copy of someone's credit report, just as long as you were contemplating litigation, And back then, I was able to get, I had a source in the phone company, and I was able to get a copy of your phone bill, your home phone bill, with a list of every call you made that month, the duration of the call, the number you called. And also, too, at the top of it would have your full name and address, just from your phone number, the bank where you banked at, where you mailed your check-ins to the phone company, and sometimes even your work address and work phone, or plus your Social Security number was on it, too. So back then, in the old days, they had these sources. Nowadays, they have these huge database companies that compile this data from credit headers and from DMV information, and that's available to licensed investigators, but it's also, some of that information is also available to the public. But then again, today, you have people who go on Facebook and give up everything they're doing, who they're in relationships with, where they work, pictures of where they've traveled their whole life. So it's half a dozen of one and 50% of another.
Yeah, because I know with like Foursquare, people actually checking in so you can get a real-time tracking of where they are or where they were, because they're at 12:30 they checked in at a restaurant, and that because they not only they check in, they take a picture of themselves, they tell you who they're with sometimes. So I in my mind, I think the privacy issues that people pretend to have are really just bluster, because I think they're really stripping off their own privacy rights.
They'll even take a picture of the meal that they're eating and post that on Facebook,
Yeah, and I'm here with Ed Opperman with Opperman Investigations. Now, you are a specialist in digital forensics, which it sounds like you open cadaver phones and find things. It's like you're digging into dead people, but it's really you're dealing with technology. So can you describe in better detail what exactly digital forensics is for the regular person?
Oh, yeah, I'm a digital forensic investigator, but I'm also an old-fashioned private investigator that does all the usual stuff that every investigator does with asset searches and background reports. But with the digital forensics, what I'll do is someone will send me a cell phone. It could be a law firm, it could be a district attorney, and I will take that phone and we'll process it just by plugging it. You don't take the phone apart or anything. You just plug it into using a USB port data cable into the computer, and you use various digital forensic software tools to just process the phone and recover the deleted information from the phone and also any data that's on the phone. And it'll just download it to the computer and create in a report format that you can use for court.
So, like, what kind of things are you finding? Because I think people just assume that once it's deleted, it's gone, especially on a phone. So what can you do what do you actually find on the phone even after they've deleted it?
Well, the cell phone forensics is fairly new. It only started around 2003. So it's still in the beginning stages. And it's not just the deleted data. Sometimes you just need the undeleted data. You need the data that's visible on the phone, but you need to present it as evidence, as an exhibit in court. So you need to reduce it down to a paper report that can then be marked as an exhibit and entered into evidence. But many times, too, you'll want the deleted data. And for instance, I did the case of, remember the original woman who accused Ashton Kutcher of infidelity. Her name was Brittany Jones. That was my client. And she had come forward with a story that she had been dating Ashton Kutcher in a relationship. So her claim was that the evidence was deleted from her phone that could corroborate her story. And on that phone, we were able to recover 3,000 deleted images, 3,000 deleted pictures. And one of the pictures was a picture she had taken in the mirror that showed a caller ID with the name Ashton Kutcher and a 310 area code phone number from Malibu. So that was pretty significant find.
So for a regular person who's not doing anything suspect, and like myself, I just bought a new phone. What am I supposed to do with the old phone to make sure that, not that I have anything on there, but because if someone steals my phone, they're going to get a lot of pictures of my dog and places my wife and I have been. It's nothing fancy, but I mean, a lot of people are worried about that. So what do you do with your old phone if you can pull so much information from it?
Well, you know what? You can pull a lot of information, but the software tools are so expensive, and they're really only sold to professionals. That your ID theft type of person is really not in the business of pulling information from a phone the way they are from a hard drive. Now, it's much easier to pull up personal information from a disposed hard drive. Like if you go to a swap meet or a yard sale and buy someone's old computer, it's very simple to put in a little a script in there to recover credit card numbers and social security numbers and date of births, because you can just put in the fields, like a 7-digit field, to recover that kind of information from a hard drive. So I'd be way more concerned with that than I would be with a cell phone. But, you still want to be careful, because who knows what you might have dialed on there or accessed your bank account or whatever. You don't know. I would throw it away.
So exactly. So you just toss it, because I mean, the expression burner phone is really because people buy a untraceable phone and throw it away, and you can just burn through it. It's no big deal. But it sounds like a burner phone. You want to destroy your phone before you throw it away, so people just can't get access to it. Because sure, it may be expensive now, but we know how software works. What was expensive now in 5 years may not nearly be as expensive, because the newer version is going to be even better. But yet you can still get some use out of some of this older thing. So besides just protecting yourself, you also do a lot of, private investigating. And when I think of PIs, I think most people hire them for, and you can tell me if this is true or not, for adultery and infidelity things. The
average PI, is like a retired cop, about 50 years old, 55 years old, and they do a lot of workman's comp surveillance for insurance companies to find people, follow them around to find them doing, physical activity that they're getting disability payments for. That they're saying they're not able to do some physical activity, so you go and you try and catch them taking a picture doing something. And everyone who gets started starts out doing that. I was never a cop. I got started back when I was a kid working for an investigator in Brooklyn, doing all kinds of stuff. Counter surveillance, bug sweeps, and stuff like that. He used to get all these big mafia cases back in New York, organized crime cases. So I got to see all that. He used to clean up the tapes of the mafia guys talking to the FBI tapes for court and stuff. So that would still what the average PI would be doing, that kind of surveillance. A lot of guys don't like to do infidelity investigations. And the ones that do usually do like to do surveillance, like you described. But I think surveillance, when applied to infidelity, is a huge expense, and you don't get back as much data as you can with digital forensics and digital surveillance.
So when you're investigating infidelity claims digitally, what are you doing? Is it mostly just sexting and looking for naked pictures of Congressman Weiner, or are you?
Right. Yeah, you have to look for naked pictures, right? Everyone does. But the first thing I suggest in any kind of infidelity investigation is it's a search that I invented. It's called an online infidelity investigation. And let's say you thought your wife was cheating on you, or she thought you were cheating on her. The spouse would give me the spouse's email address, and I can take that email address and trace it back to online dating websites and online personal ads and online social networks. Like everybody knows about Facebook and Zoosk and these well-known social networks. But a lot of times what you'll have is when two parties are committing adultery, they'll find an obscure social network that most people aren't aware of, and they'll contact each other back and forth on that one, hoping that they're not going to run into their friends on Facebook and MySpace and stuff like that.
So is this similar to basically Al-Qaeda, except it's Al-Qaeda for sex?
Pretty much. With the General Petraeus case, that's what he was doing. He used the Al-Qaeda method where they used the draft box of an email address. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. If you're in the middle of an email and then you say, well, I'll get to this later, you can not necessarily cancel it, but you can click out of it, and it can ask you if you want to save a draft.
There you go. So if you and I wanted to communicate with each other without sending each other emails, we would create an email address called craiganded@gmail.com. We both have the password to it. I go in, I write a little message to you, I put it in the draft box, you log in a week later, a day later, and you read the message and then delete it. I know you've read it. Then you can reply to me through the draft box. But there's no electronic trail of you and me sending each other messages.
And of course, we're not endorsing this. We're just explaining what
right.
people are doing. So how can you find these emails then? If you're doing the forensics and where it's supposedly not leaving a trace, how are these people getting caught?
Well, in the case with General Petraeus, what they did was they subpoenaed and they had a search warrant for Google, and they got it that way from the Google records. Because it would be very difficult unless you had a PC-based email program to recover that kind of email traffic between two people.
Because it's an online cloud service that you'd have to get a third party involved instead of just something that sits on your PC?
Right, yeah. If it's a PC-based program like Outlook Express, just send me the hard drive. I can pick up all the emails, the deleted emails as well. But if it's sitting on the Google server, then we have to contact Google and, with a search warrant or subpoena and get that information from them.
I guess if you're the FBI, that's fairly easy. In the Petraeus situation, as a civilian or a investigator, that might be a little harder to do.
Well, it depends. If we already have some kind of litigation going on, yeah, you can get a subpoena. Otherwise, we may need to create some kind of litigation in order to get it going. Luckily, a lot of people, well, not luckily, but a good case would be someone who already has a restraining order against the person stalking them or whatever like that, and then we can follow up on that. Sometimes you can just get the proof of the stalking activity or the email eavesdropping activity and bring that to the police, and they'll follow up with a search warrant against the ISP.
Yeah, because that's something that you also do is, try to prevent cyber stalking and cyberbullying. And so what are some of the things that we can do to protect our emails from being snooped on?
Yeah, that's how I got started in all this, with cyber stalking investigations. And that's when I created my website, emailrevealer.com, and that's why I gave it that name. Now, to prevent, see, the thing is, I get a lot of questions, okay? I know this couple at work, and they're cheating, and I want to send them an email and warn them about this and confront them, but I don't want them to know that I sent them this email. And there's really no way to protect yourself against that. If you want to be like a whistleblower and send an anonymous email to someone and not get caught, it's very, very difficult. I get those kind of cases all the time, and we can't track them down and we can't catch them. So now, as far as protecting yourself, the main thing I would suggest is when you're online debating people, once they start getting confrontational with you, just back off totally. Don't get into a big debate with someone online that you think is just a regular debate, because a lot of these people, you don't know who you're dealing with online. They're living in their own world, in their own fantasy world sometimes, and they can really take it to extremes.
Well, and I've seen some where it gets ugly quick, especially online, because they think they're invisible.
Right.
You're talking. I mean, I see this on Facebook between people I know who are talking politics. Last year was pretty ugly as far as politics went, and I saw some very heated things could turn pretty ugly. If I didn't know the two, I would have thought it would have come to blows, and I would be finding a body in the desert at some point. So you just can't assume that there's people out there that are just being rational, and it's just talk. It could be personal to them. So if you think someone is starting to stalk you, and you think people are trying, there may be some evidence that someone's broken into your email, is there some things you can do to stop that?
Well, I did invent a service where I can monitor someone's email account. And let's say there's an ex-boyfriend who's a little too obsessed with them, and he's hacked into their email account, and he's sneaking in there reading their emails. I can monitor that and obtain evidence of a third party accessing that account, and then we could trace it back to the person who's doing it and get some kind of law enforcement involved. So that's one thing. But it really depends. When you notice that you're being stalked, a lot of people are going to say, well, listen, close the account, change the passwords, do this, do that, erase everything, delete everything. If you do that, you're destroying all of the evidence trail. So you really want to document everything as it's going on, so that if it does escalate and we do need to get a restraining order, that at least we have this as documented as well as a civilian can do.
So actually, it sounds like the most common advice people get is probably the most harmful advice, shutting it all down and just walking away when you may need that later.
Yeah, especially because these stalkers, especially if you change your phone number, like right away they're going to try and get the new phone number. So if you change your email and it bounces back, now they want to find, well, what's her email? Now she's hiding from me. I got to find out. So it kind of eggs them on a little bit more. But in my situation, trying to catch this person and document them, that's kind of a good assailant that I'm looking for, because the more obsessed they are, the more stalking they are, the more mistakes they're going to make, and the more interaction I can get going back and forth with them, that I can trace them back to where they're located. And
isn't that the key, is kind of wait them out until they screw up? Because they're not geniuses. They're going to screw up at some point. So
you know what? Yeah, they always screw up, especially late at night. But I even prefer a guy who's, a lot of time a client will tell me, oh, my stalker is so computer savvy and he knows how to use these proxy servers and he's sending me emails. They look like they're from Nigeria. I like those guys even better, because they get so bold. They think they're so tech savvy that they get so bold that they think that they could never be caught. And those guys are usually the easiest to catch. You trip them up and you set little traps for them, and those are the ones that I like the best.
Now, is there other things that you use your digital forensics for besides just infidelity and also looking for emails? Is there other things that you do with digital forensics?
Well, yeah, I pretty much do all the stuff when you go to court. Like a lot of restraining order violations. You'll have one party will have a restraining order against another party, and then they'll say, listen, I got these text messages from my ex-husband threatening me. We have to present this in court. Or vice versa, that the person who's on, is on trial, the defendant, being accused of sending threatening text messages, something like that, we would need to create a report for court for that. I'll give you an example. Okay, I had a client. He had a restraining order against him. His ex-wife parked in front of the house with a laptop, logged into his Wi-Fi, and sent herself threatening emails. She presented the evidence to the DA saying, look, I got these emails from his IP address. It had to be him. But I was able to prove that there were other identifiers in his computer. One was that he used Outlook Express, and that these emails were not sent from Outlook Express. There's other factors to identify, and we were able to prove that it was sent from her computer, parked out in front of the house, and not from his computer inside the house.
So basically, you are dealing with people who set other people up sometimes?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm not. I'm not a criminal. I don't know what these people do. So I wouldn't think about doing that. I'm listening, going, man, there are some crazy people out in this world.
Man, welcome to my world. Yeah, I can give you one. One time we had one with it was the fish and game warden in this town arrested a guy for poaching. And then he used the computer at the Fish and Game police department. It escapes me what it's called exactly.
Oh, that's right, Fish and Game.
Yeah, Fish and Game. Yeah, to intimidate the witnesses, the defense witnesses. He was anonymously intimidating witnesses using the computer at the Fish and Game.
Now, that always confuses me when I hear about people sending anonymous emails because, I mean, when you receive an anonymous email, which I've never gotten, I mean, unless it was just a obvious spam. I've never gotten an anonymous email that was specifically directed to me by someone who may or may not know me. I mean, it's what do they look like? I mean, is it just, Craig, I've been watching you, you're crazy, and I'm going to get you? Or is it a little more, how do you anonymously bully someone? What are we looking for?
Well, I tell you, you get a lot of different ones. A common one is to Craig's wife. Craig's wife, I'm sleeping with Craig. I'm sleeping with your man. With and the email address will be something like Craig's girlfriend at yahoo.com.
Okay.
And
so
Craig's wife will
well, after my wife stops hilariously laughing, and then decides, well, maybe I should look into this. I mean, how do the people? They set up websites. They set up these emails. I mean, someone does that without any. They're just doing it to ruin people. Is that the key?
Yeah, well, in a situation like that, it's usually another woman who is trying to cause trouble in a relationship, and that's very common. That people try to cause trouble within a relationship between a husband and wife, alleging infidelity, and it could be for any motive. It also happens in office politics. You know, the boss will get an email saying, "Hey, these two are doing this and that. They're stealing from you. They're siphoning off clients to another business." And then the owner of the company needs to hire me to find out, hey, who's sending this? What's going on here? Another one is people within a church, slandering each other. Saying, hey, I saw so-and-so doing this, and then the pastor contacts us, what's going on here? We have to find out what's going on.
Oh, good.
Those are all common.
Ratting each other out. That's nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, before we let you go, there is one thing that you did that I saw that really intrigued me, and it kind of it happened recently. With it was with people who are on vacation. You were talking about missing persons, how you can use digital forensics to find missing people. There was the reason why it jumped to my head. There was a couple that told everybody, "We're going to be gone for 4 months. We're going to be in Peru or Colombia, and we're going to be gone. And so you may not get, messages from us, and we may not return phone calls." And they tweeted a little bit. They posted pictures on Facebook, and then for 2 weeks, no one heard from them. And then their parents thought, oh my God, they're dead, even though they told everybody ahead of time. And so they, through Facebook and through emails and cell phones, they were able to locate them in the jungle and verify they were alive. How can you do that with the missing people?
Yeah, okay. Well, what you can do is you can send somebody an email, and when they open up the email, you can see their computer and see what the location where they are. And I use this all the time to catch bail jumpers and runaway kids. And I'll give you an example real quick. There was in Las Vegas, there was this girl who she was reported missing. And I spoke to the sister called me up first. Oh, my sister's missing. She's missing in Las Vegas. And she thought that the boyfriend had abducted her or really harmed her, whatever. And when I talked to the boyfriend, right away I was able to get him to admit that they had a fight, and she walked away. So what I did was I started emailing her with different pretext email accounts. And I saw that she opened up one of my emails at a hotel. I think it was like a Motel 6. And I know where everyone is, so I just went to each one until I found her at the business office in the Motel 6.
So just by the fact that when someone opens an email, was this on her cell phone that she opened it? And so her
No, she went to how they have those free business offices at a motel? Okay. And so, what's that called? A business office.
A business office. So when she logged in the IP address for the Motel 6 in this case, you were able to find that out from a sent email and not a received email?
From a received email. From a sent email. Yeah, when she opened up my email, I saw the computer she opened it up on.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, and I was going to say with IP addresses, you can get pretty accurate almost to the room sometimes in some of these bigger office buildings.
Yeah, it is, but there's so much more than just the IP address, and there's ways to use proxy servers and to even fake and forge the IP address in a header. See, most people that when you Google how to trace an email, how to investigate an email, all you're going to see is people talking about, okay, open up the email, look at the headers, take the IP address and put it in this little tool. That's all nonsense. I don't do any of that. When I'm doing a reverse email trace report, I'm not doing anything with the headers until late in the investigation. Almost everything you get is from emailing them and seeing the information when they open up the email. That's where you get the good stuff. When someone wants to stalk Craig, he's going to be very careful. He's going to go to the library. He's going to go to Kinko's, and he's going to he's going to email you, then go home. Now, when I email that stalker, he's going to open it up. He's going to be home in the middle of the night drinking a bottle of beer. He's not going to be that careful. So I'm going to see his home computer when he opens it up.
Wow, you do some interesting work. And where can people find you if they want to learn more, or maybe even hire you to help them out?
The best way to find me is you go on the web and you go to emailrevealer.com, and that's where both Opperman Investigations is based out of, and Accurate Information Recovery, which is a digital forensic business. And if you need any kind of forensics or cyber stalking investigation or infidelity investigation, we can pretty much cover anything you need. And if we can't, I'll put you in the right direction.
That's the show for this week. I want to thank Ed for coming on. Fascinating job. Not sure if I'd want to do it, but it's interesting nonetheless. Remember, the show is on Facebook. It's on Twitter at RealityCheckPod. We hit the mark where only the latest 50 episodes are available on iTunes, so if you want more older archives, head over to realitycheckpodcast.com. Let me know your thoughts by emailing me, Craig at speakercraigprice.com. See you next week.